Values and the inherently immoral. Every once in a while, one of the right-wing pundits that fill the editorial pages of the corporate media actually says something which is true. Oh, I know you think I'm just making this up to be friendly towards our more intellectually disadvantaged and valueless citizens, but I tell the truth. A recent case in point is one Mona Charen, whom I've never met but regard as being intellectually inferior to garden slugs. Charen and her mentor George Will have noticed that when society has arrived at a point where 18-year-old girls are giving birth at their high school prom and then simply leaving the newborn in the trash, that society has reached the point of moral meltdown. That's Charen's term. The interesting part of this observation is that it comes from right-wing pundits. Yes, we have reached a point of moral meltdown. Charen thinks this is because the corporate media seek out psychiatrists to ask them why would someone do such a thing, rather than seeking out priests, who might say that these people are simply going to hell. Now, suggesting that children are going to hell when they're not able to cope with the various trials of their lives is a uniquely unhelpful idea, so it should not surprise us that Charen came up with it. Charen has no interest in discussing why society has reached this point of moral meltdown, but she does seem interested in punishing the children in question when they reach these crises in their lives. Personally, my opinion is that we have reached moral meltdown because so many newspapers are publishing the views of Mona Charen and George Will, as if either of them has ever had anything intelligent, helpful, or ethical to say. We have no moral standards left because the people who are setting a public example are morally bankrupt. Of course, the question then becomes, why have our media become obsessed with the views of the intellectually inferior and morally bankrupt? I have a theory about this problem of public morality. The one big thing that the corporate media and the morally bankrupt who make up the right wing have in common is that they both support a completely unrestricted free market economy. That is, they all believe that capitalism should be completely unfettered by the demands of morality or democracy, and that ordinary people should not have any kind of say in the way our economy works. Charen, Will, and the big media outlets that run their verbal affluence all agree that rich people should do as they please without regard for ethical standards or public decency. We have reached the point of moral meltdown because the views of people like Charen have come into vogue. Capitalism is inherently immoral. Yet, Charen's column regularly features her extolling the virtues of capitalism unfettered by moral responsibility, and now, of course, she notices that when these values of hers filter down to the rest of society, they look ugly. I suspect that what really bothers Charen and Will is not that a newborn human being is dead. Neither of them has shown any remorse for the millions of humans who have died as a result of CIA-sponsored coups, assassinations, and death squads. Rather, they are bothered that some little girl decided for herself that she was not ready to be a parent and handled the situation in the only way that she thought she could. When children fail to meet our expectations for socially responsible behavior, it is not their fault, as Charen and Will would have us believe. And further, putting this troubled girl to death for murder, as I'm sure Charen will be advocating in the near future, does not set any kind of moral example. The problem in our society is that the adults with power are not setting a positive example of moral behavior. In Charen's case, they're advocating a system in which corporate bosses are encouraged to kill at will and to destroy entire towns in their morally bankrupt quest for the greatest private profits at any social cost. Our society has reached moral meltdown because we have been forced to live in the system advocated by Charen herself. It is a cruel, evil, vicious system that sucks the life out of everything it touches. Americans have no morality because the so-called free market has no morality. The chickens of free market morality have come home to roost. We should all be terribly disturbed at this course of events and must endeavor to do everything in our power to resist the world desired by Charen and those morally bankrupt individuals who control the system she pimps. This is Richard Curtis.